Three, two, one. How is it going, everybody? You know who I got? Nice and jacked in the picture. He's an amazing alpha dropper. And I'm so excited to talk to you, Chip. How are you doing today?
Appreciate the intro. Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you, Moon Man? Is that what I should call you, or you go by something else?
No, you can call me the moon man. You can call me whatever
All
you
right.
want, but yeah. No, I'm doing
Sounds good.
great, man. I'm glad to hear you're doing good. And we got to
Yep.
start off, dude. You look great, man. Like you work out, you stay fit.
Yeah, I get around. I I'm a power lifter,
Yeah,
so I like to just hit up the heavy compound movements, squat, bench, deadlift, and I was in the military, so fitness has always been a big deal to me. And yeah, thanks
amazing.
for
No,
noticing. But yeah,
yeah.
I enjoy working out and hitting up the gym.
That's good, man. That's good. We like to make sure that the Star Atlas team is staying healthy. And yeah, no, it's because I got your profile picture right here. So I seen you, and I never actually zoomed in on it. I was like, yo, this guy's kind of yoked. This is dope. No, so it's good that you guys are staying healthy, man. So you said you were in the military. Maybe give us a little bit more background of, how you got into the game system design side of things in life, and then being brought onto the Star Atlas team. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, sure. So in high school, I knew I wanted to work with space stuff, and I was kind of gearing towards rockets because I was building those model rockets in high school as part of one of my science classes, and I was like, man, this is super cool. So I ended up wanting to work in the space industry, but I also my dad was in the Air Force and kind of grew up in a military family, and I was like, I want to serve as well. So the mixture
Okay.
of Air Force and space kind of led me towards lo- led me towards working as an officer in the Air Force, working on satellites and space technologies. So I served for 5 years and built a lot of really cool stuff and worked on a lot of really neat satellite and ground systems projects. But I found over my 5 year career in the military that I really wanted to get my hands dirty with more engineering and less kind of uh, managerial officer type roles. So I ended up getting out after 5 years in the Air Force and joined the civilian space sector, where I continued to work on Department of Defense satellites and and space systems. So I did that for a few years, and I realized that I woke up every day really excited about crypto because I had
Yeah.
found crypto in 2016, and I was continuing my day job. But every single day, if I really took a step back and was like, what excites me, it wasn't necessarily going to work every day. It was about getting like being on crypto Twitter and investing and just being part of the whole emerging decentralized and crypto assets movement.
Right.
So it was in 2021 where I finally just decided, hey, I'm in a good spot in my life. I kind of want to just go for it,
Hmm.
jump into the deep end. And I asked my employer, I'd like to almost like take a sabbatical. I'd like to take a few years off and go and just try to work in the crypto industry. And they said, yeah, like that makes sense. You're at a good turning point in your career. You're more than welcome to come back and join us whenever you want. Doors open. So I took that leap, and I quit, and without an actually a job in place. I just went, and I had money saved up. I went and just gave myself time to figure out what I wanted to do. So I knew
Okay.
it was going to be crypto, and I was researching middle of 2021, I was researching a bunch of crypto opportunities. And originally, I was thinking CeFi or centralized finance things like crypto lending and or or like crypto bank accounts. And it it was just my what I thought was an easy way to get into the crypto space. And then I was looking at DeFi, and then as I was like, well, maybe I don't want to join a centralized kind of service provider. Maybe I want to join a DeFi project. And I was looking into that, And over the course of my weeks and uh, even going into months of research, I started realizing that crypto gaming was taking off and becoming, especially with Axie Infinity and then these other
Hmm.
emerging projects. I was realizing that that's a really cool new space. So I was like, okay, well maybe gaming, since I'm an avid gamer, I've always loved gaming. Maybe gaming and crypto is a good kind of intersection of my interests. So I started looking into crypto gaming projects, and I eventually found Star Atlas, and I saw some of Michael Wagner's interviews, and I'm like, man, this game is ambitious, but it's also something that I feel like over the long term will be extremely successful. And I also love space and sci-fi. So it was weird. Now we're merging almost everything that makes me like me as far as my passions of space and gaming and crypto all in one package. And I had to
Right.
reach out. So I reached out and I asked, hey, this is my background. Do you guys need somebody like me? And so I heard back from Kelsey at the time, and we hopped on a call and we vibed, and we kind of had similar mindsets as well as passion. And then he said, you need to talk to Danny Floyd. And I ended up talking to Jacob as well in the same call because they weren't sure if I was going to be more on the engineering side or the gameplay side. And we
Right.
realized that when I talked that I really fit well underneath Danny as a game systems designer, somebody who thinks about game mechanics and crafting trees and just has a we were trying to apply my background in space towards
Hmm.
some of the game mechanics. So I ended up being brought on and worked under him. And my first assignment was really just to start thinking about how do you craft our spaceships in the game, what technologies are used, what resources, how does it happen, and it was a lot of just learning and iterating and just coming and brainstorming for the first few months. And then obviously a lot of people are familiar with kind of my debut where I came onto town halls and I dropped a lot of alpha
Yep.
and
Hmm.
ever since
I
then
remember.
my role's been kind of evolving. I've gone from less focused on just and crafting and resource generation and more on just the gameplay loops in general. So how does space combat work, and how does exploration work? I'm kind of wearing a lot of hats in the gameplay department, and I'm finding that I'm actually pretty uniquely suited for this job. I didn't know before last year that I'm good at game design, and I'm finding that a lot of my background and my talents lend themselves to this. So I'll stop there. And I just was saying that I'm really
Yeah.
enjoying my job, and it's just the most amazing opportunity and blessing in my life. And it's crazy how everybody else on the team kind of feels the same way for them. They're like this opportunity to work on this project is amazing, inspiring, and just everybody's passionate. So
Yeah, man, that's an amazing background. There's a lot to unpack there. So,
yeah,
shout out to Kelsey for picking you up and hearing your vision out and thinking that you were the right person to bring onto the team. Because I can say now, I think you were the right person, and I do want to say, thank you for your service. You're a super intelligent dude, and I think having that engineer background is super. It's gonna help a lot, and I think we're gonna see that once the game comes out. I would love to dig into, like, I know you mentioned the skill tree. I don't know if that. I know you said you work on the exploration side of things. I don't know how much you work on the skill tree, but if you could maybe break that down for us. I'm a skill guy. I
mm-hmm.
love skill trees in games. Getting the attributes and putting them in certain places that makes sense. Can we break down a little bit of what Star Atlas's skill tree might look like in the future?
Yeah. So I will
If we can
say,
speak on it, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'll try to answer as best I can because to be transparent, we're iterating a lot on some of these progression systems right now. So
Hmm.
I can say one thing now, and then in a few weeks we decide actually we prefer this. So the past few months this year, we're really honing in on the gameplay loops and the progression systems.
Hmm.
And in doing so, we've gone through so many iterations of designs at this point. It's like almost there's a little bit of whiplash, but
Yeah.
we're starting to solidify. Not starting. We're solidifying a lot of things at this point.
Right.
And but yeah, let's talk about progression and skill trees.
Hmm.
Let so with the ships in our game, there's these each ship has kind of an assigned role. So there's some ships that are fighters that are geared towards combat. There's some that are geared towards transporting people. We call those transport ships. Then there's some that are good at transporting cargo. We call those freighters. There's some that are good at bounty hunting, others that are good at mining, others that are good at multi-role. So maybe they're good at a lot of things, not necessarily best suited for one in particular, but they can kind of blend across multiple things. So knowing that all ships have their specified roles, there's these careers that players will be able to progress in the game. So let's take a very simple one as an example. There's the combat or the fighter career, and
Right.
as you as you engage in combat and you gain experience,
Hmm.
I wouldn't think about it as your ship is gaining experience, like your ship's not leveling up in combat. There's two ways that you'll be able to get better at combat. You'll be able to, as you go on your adventures, you get new components and modules, or research new technologies and upgrade the pieces on your ships. Say your weapons, you upgrade those and
Right.
your ships get better at combat, but then also you gain combat experience and you will be able to apply your, I guess, your combat experience towards maybe buffs, or assign skill points in skill trees, and improve your ability to do certain combat like activities, right?
So yeah.
Maybe if you apply, and we're still working out on the natures of these skill trees, to be
Right.
transparent. But say you get a skill point and you apply that skill point towards reducing the cooldowns on your weapons, right? That makes sense that you get, because you've gotten combat experience, you can apply that experience on certain benefits that will
Right.
improve your combat ability.
So can you, when we're speaking about progression,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned putting new parts on your ships. Is it kind of one of those things where once you reach level 10, you have access to these, let's say, you know, simple parts, and then the next one is uh, normal parts, and you know what I mean? Like each level, you gain access to um, stronger weapons or stronger parts for your vehicle that help you in that, whatever role you're playing. Does that kind of make sense? Like you unlock like legendary items,
So
and then
there
something like that, maybe.
there's going to be multiple ways to get better components and modules for your ship. So there's going to be this entire career and gameplay associated with crafting in the game, where you unlock
Yeah.
blueprints for better technologies, or you research certain technologies and now you can craft better things,
Yeah.
whatever that ends up being, components or modules. But then there's also like defeating enemies and being able to salvage things from their ships, and
You can
maybe
put it.
they have
So you can
better
put a.
things.
So not to cut you off, sorry. So like let's
Yeah.
say you are out in deep space, or you're wherever you're at, you're a tiny ship, you may be only 10 levels. I don't know if there's levels, but you just started the game maybe a month ago, but you find yourself flying through combat of this big war that has some guys that have been playing for a year, and a ship blows up, you come by, shoom, you salvage, and then you get out of there. Now, the parts on this ship that you just picked up are clearly 10 times better than the ones you have, because these are
Yeah.
guys that have been playing for a year. Can you go and put one of those parts on your vehicle, or is there a certain level you need to get to? If
So
any
there
parts
there
can
will
go
be
on any
limits
ship.
on what you can put on your vehicle.
Okay,
Like
okay.
a certain, like you can't put a capital sized warp drive on your extra small
True, true.
ship,
Makes sense
right?
to me. Yeah,
It's going to be certain sizes associated with your weapon, your ship's slots.
yeah.
However, if you do find something that's just way better, there, as long as it's operational. Say you go and salvage that ship and you pull off something that's very valuable, you might have to repair it, and maybe repairing it is complicated in itself,
Hmm.
and you don't have the level to repair it. That doesn't mean you can't hire another player in the game to repair it for you for a fee, but then there's no reason why you can't put that in your ship now, as long as it,
It's
like a Lego piece, fits.
yeah. As long as you pick up an X5 part, you can put an X5 part on your X5. You know.
Yeah, and I don't know if
Yeah.
parts will be ship specific.
Correct.
Say it's a thruster or a weapon or a warp drive. The intent is, as long as it's the right size, you
Yeah.
can put it in.
Might just be a small engine. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Exactly. No, that's
Uh,
amazing. Go ahead.
So yeah, it's almost, if you think about traditional RPGs, not only are you leveling, but as you level, you get better and better armor pieces.
Hmm.
So you can think about, like, you're leveling your account, and you're getting better at all sorts of different metrics or aspects of the game, but you're also progressing your ships by giving them better armor pieces, or better, at least using traditional MMO verbiage,
Right.
but
Right.
getting better components and modules. So eventually, you well, not maybe, like, eventually you can get completely legendary components and modules for your tiny ships. Your X4 could be kitted out in all legendary stuff.
Right.
Even though it's a tiny ship, it can have all legendary components, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Let's say like a guild is hiring a bunch of new people because they're going into a big war, and it's like, look, we have the expenses, we have the parts to do this. These people that just started maybe a month ago, not that we should put them into war, right? But we're going to do a big battle. It's like, here, just put all these legendary parts on your craft. That simple X5 is not going to work. You're going to need all these parts. So we put those legendary parts
Yeah.
on them. We kit them out. They've only been playing a month, but we send them into a big battle. But at least they've got those legendary parts. There's no you're not hindered by time played or anything like that. As long as you have the parts, you can put them on your ship,
Yeah,
whether
and I'd
somebody
like
gives them to
to
you or you research and develop them.
agree. Yeah, that's perfect. And I'd like to expect that in the future we will have these lending protocols or abilities that you can lend your guild mates these pieces, so you still own them, but they're just using it, and that way it doesn't feel like you just irreversibly giving this to them,
Right.
and then it's on their honor to give it back when they're done with it, or earned it, kind of thing. So I do envision this idea of hiring people, like crew, or lending out certain components or ships and stuff, and then kind of paying that back, or just giving it, like, getting it back when the contract duration has expired. But that's a whole nother,
Right.
I guess, peer-to-peer aspect of our game that is also
Yeah.
being thought about and worked out.
Yeah. And how is the process of developing such a immersive, intense, demanding blockchain game coming along? Like, because there's so many moving parts when you have to, it's not just making a weapons game, it's not just making a ship game, it's not making an items game. Like, all this has to be done on the blockchain, and this is what the difficult task is. It's so much more difficult because there's so many transactions, there's so many items on the blockchain. There's so many moving parts when it comes to a blockchain game. How is the development of that, and how is that coming along for the team?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things there.
So much.
Just
Yeah.
in general, without the blockchain aspect right now, this game has such a scope, or just vision of
Yeah.
what we want to allow players to do, that it's really hard as a game designer to whittle down the core gameplay loops that we're going to deliver first. Because if it were up to me, we would deliver land and crafting and ship exploration and bounty hunting and guilds and owning, and, like, regional DAOs and all of this all at the same time. But that's not realistic. We have to prioritize things,
Hmm.
and a lot of the beginning of this year, a lot of time was just spent. We're not removing scope from our vision. We're just prioritizing things, like what makes sense to build out first, and then how do we increment on that, and then over time have this this development vision of expanding and expanding, expanding, but not building something up front and then feeling like it's um, I guess a solution or gameplay that we're just gonna trash, and it was just like a stopgap. We're trying to get away from that. Again, a key example is we wanted to give players utility to their ships that they've purchased last year and we released Score. That was almost of our debut of just trying to bake in blockchain logic and gameplay on the blockchain. We're trying to bake in game logic on the blockchain. That was our first attempt at doing that, and also giving players, rewarding players for purchasing these ships and giving them some utility in the interim. But that module of gameplay is likely going to be deprecated. We're not. It's not going to exist long term. That's not what. That's a lot of people would agree that that's not gameplay. That's more gamified staking. And so we want to avoid the model of continuing to release things like that where we feel like we're just going to deprecate them later.
Right.
So the hard part right now is we want to, with the next gameplay that we release, we want to make sure it persists. It's something that we're confident we can just build on and expand rather than incrementally deploy and then replace with something else later.
Right.
So speaking about the blockchain, it's hard. It's really hard now as also a game designer where you come up with all these gameplay loops, but now you're constrained by transaction size limits and transaction per second and latency and what does it mean when a player owns an asset but it's an escrow, like if you think about it, when you deposit your ships into Score, your tokens, your SFTs associated with those ships aren't in your wallet anymore. They're in an escrow wallet. So when you deposit, for future gameplay, when you deposit these tokens into the game smart contracts or the escrow accounts, what are the limitations associated with how players can interact with those tokens, that the things they own, without them being in their own wallet? Because what if other ecosystems want to interact with our tokens, but they're in escrow? Or also, just what if the tokens in escrow and like players no longer see that in their inventory and they're confused, like where's my ship kind of thing. Right. So there's just a lot of there's implications with now operating traditional style games on the blockchain that just it's a lot of learning, a lot of iterating on the user experience and the user interaction, the UI, and then also coming up with gameplay loops that are fun, repeatable, and meaningful, but are within the constraints of blockchain development.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, does it feel, now that you guys are in it, been building for some time now, does it feel like the tech, like where we're at in technology and blockchain, does it feel like everything is up to date in a sense of, like, when it comes to building the game Unreal Engine 5, putting it on the blockchain, putting it on Solana? Does it feel like everything is up to date and we're at the place we need to be? Or does it almost feel like, man, I wish technology was a little bit more advanced 2-3 years into the future to be able to handle what we're trying to build here? It's kind of a tough question, but
yeah, I can say that our team has a clear vision of how we are going to get to our full game vision on the blockchain. Like we know how we're going to get there. It's not like, oh, well, we need this unknown technology to come out before we can get there. We actually have we know what we need to do, but there's also some elements of, well, it would be nice if or not nice. It's more like, well, we don't know. There's certain upgrades that we can expect to come out in the future that'll help us get to that vision faster, right? So, like, say the transaction size limits on the Solana blockchain gets increased, or there's a way that becomes more scalable, and we can do a lot more with a single transaction. That would help us get to our vision faster.
So that kind of goes back to what you were saying with, you're picking and choosing what things can be done now and what things we need to then do in the future. You're building the foundation that makes sense right now. And then in the future, we know that we'll have that foundation built, and then we can start adding those things that we want to add in the future because the
Yeah,
tech will be there and the transaction size will be there, the tech speed, the internet speed, just all those things. Yep. Smart.
exactly. And it's almost like there's some unknowns because
Yeah.
as Solana develops and we get more and more, um, I guess, projects and other upgrades to the network,
Yeah.
a gameplay contract or gameplay loop that we design now could very well have to be redesigned in the future to go in the new direction or scale better, and that's
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
But we don't know. We can't plan all of that
Yeah.
ahead
Yeah.
of time, right? So there's definitely some compromises or
Everything is
some
subject to change. Yeah.
exactly,
And look, I
exactly.
just want to be the first to say, I think me and many others in the community that are actually here for the long run, totally have your guys' back, and we're all about. I always say you guys put us in some type of trance and hypnosis that we've accepted. Like, we understand this is going to take 4 to 5 years. I've mentioned that a couple of times, and I'm totally along for the ride, man. And I think a lot of us are. And there's a lot of naysayers and haters out there, but
Yeah,
they
and I
can
wanna like
screw
there's
off.
there's one thing that I
Yeah.
wanna. It's almost a testament to why we we are the almost like the slow and steady.
Yes.
It's because we're choosing to put all of our game logic on the blockchain, and that's fundamentally different from a lot of other blockchain games where it's more of this just ownership model is in your wallets on the blockchain, but then all the game logic is just on centralized servers. We're actually trying, like our vision is to make all of our game logic and all of our gameplay interactions be decentralized and on the blockchain itself. And that's fundamentally a harder approach, but a
Hmm.
more long-term and
Makes more
strategic
sense.
decision for us to make
Yeah.
up front. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No, makes sense. So you did touch on it. That was the question I had, but then there's another one that I had in there a couple minutes ago. So what it was when it comes to the next gameplay that is released, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's like the ship module. Obviously, we'll be able to walk around, but there's also the integration of being able to actually buy and sell components and maybe start attaching things to our ships. Is that correct? And about how deep, how 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 in depth is that going to be? That is the
So
one of the next two on the horizon.
if you go to the Star Atlas, like the Play.Star Atlas website, and you see that overview section where
Yep.
um, it kind of displays all of our intended upgrades or our future releases.
Uh-huh.
And there's like ship configuration and ship missions, and
Yes.
then
Ship
I believe
configuration.
it's
Yes. Yes.
yeah. So um, I would expect that ship missions and ship configurations will come out, um, probably not at the same time, but in tandem. So
Right.
right now, it looks like ship missions would come out first, and you'd be able to send your ships on missions. And then after that, we would open up the ability to mix and match all your components and modules, right?
Beautiful.
So, yeah, so I can't go into too many details on why we chose
Understandable.
that,
Yeah.
but that's what I would expect is that I know early in the year or it was late last year, people were expecting land and crafting to be the next thing, but
Yeah.
it's we're actually gearing more towards ship utility and ship missions and ship configuration first
Well, I think it
with
only
the yeah.
it only
Go
makes
ahead.
so much it only makes so much sense just to say it, because land is so big and there's so much that has to be built into that, right? Ships are a lot smaller than land. That's so much easier to build. Maybe it's not, I don't know, but that just makes more sense that let's just stick with ships. Let's send them out on missions first. Let's see how these ships
Ye-
do missions, what they can do in missions, and then it's like, okay, get the people used to doing ship missions, see what's good, and then bring them in to learning how to maybe add more firepower or more cargo, freight haul. I think that is the
Yeah.
right direction. That makes
Yep.
sense. Yep.
It's like release, like let players now send their ships on actual missions, not fleet staking.
Right.
It's more now you have decisions on what missions you go and what ships you choose for those missions, and then you can see that certain ships are better than others at certain things, and then um, open up the degrees of freedom associated with customizing your ships. Now swap in and out modules. You've gone on these ship missions. You've gotten some new drops or components and modules. Now plug and play and see how things work out. And then we can expand from that core foundation, right? The core
Hmm.
of our game is really, at least in the near term, is intended to be like ships and your spacefaring activities. And then we will expand into more of the in-depth land and crafting and stuff. It just doesn't make sense to put that up front without ship missions, and we realized that pretty quickly, and that's why we've kind of pivoted a little bit early this year.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I agree with it.
Yeah.
And I think people will think that makes sense too. So let me ask you this: how long have you been working there with the team?
Um, since October,
Since
so
October.
going on 5 months.
Okay. And you said you made
No,
the
six
jump.
months. Yeah.
You told the job. You said, "Hey, I'm going to try something financially. I'm doing good, um, and I want to make this jump." Excuse me. And so you made the jump. You put in the application. Kelsey got you in. They liked you. You've now been there since October. That's what, about 4 months, maybe four and a half, five. Um, do you feel good about this jump? You like working at Star Atlas? You feeling good? You enjoying it? I know you mentioned that it does encapsulate like everything that you love to
Yeah.
do. So, but where you at? You like it? Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier, and this is the first time in my career that I don't care if it's Monday,
Yeah.
like,
It's
or the
amazing.
weekend. Actually,
Yeah.
I don't recall ever um, wanting to work on the weekends until now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and there's definitely work-life balance, and so I do make sure I take care of myself and my friends and family and take my time. But I also find
Right.
myself wanting to work on the weekends and just give it everything I got because
Yeah.
this project is so exciting, and I'm
It's
surrounded by
fun,
so
man.
many talented and passionate teams.
Yeah.
So so yeah, just to answer your question, I'm loving it, and
Yeah.
I see myself working with the team for many years to come.
That's awesome, man. I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah,
It's nice to know that the team is so passionate about what they're doing because, um, I'm a risk taker myself and doing this whole Moon Man thing and hanging out with the community. Like, I love doing this stuff, like this little content creation. I'm gonna ramp it up a lot more, but it's just so fun. Like, it's weird how like there can just be a collective of people that all came together through few people's ideas and it's just grown into something where it's its own ecosystem and Star Atlas team, Star Atlas community, like it's just feel it all together and the ones that are supposed to be here are here and we just feel it. It's so crazy. Um
yeah,
but
and like in a world of now remote work or
yeah.
online presence or just even during quarantine where we all felt like we were disconnected,
Hmm.
this is our new avenue of feeling connected, and if there's and now you almost feel like you connect better because you're finding people with similar interests much
Yes.
easier, and you talk the same language and you create your own like slang and ethos, and it's just exciting to
Yeah.
see this because fundamentally as humans we like to group up into different groups and teams and stuff, and it's just manifesting itself in this online presence of Discord servers and Twitter Spaces and whatever you want to do, and even now
Right.
games with MMOs and now the metaverse. It's just a natural extension of our innate tendencies of just wanting to belong, both familially and like in just in a tribe or group. So, yeah,
Yeah, most humans don't like to be around negative people. Now, some do not know how to get out of negative situations, but most people like to hang around people that, like you said, are like-minded, um, and that bring them up rather than tear them down. So it
yeah,
does feel really really fun. how is it working with, some of the team members? I've talked to a few of them, and I want to talk to more of them, but it sounds like that's a really really fun place to work. And obviously some of it's remote, but how is it? I mean, you finding some best friends that you feel like this is going to be who I'm going to hang out with and get to know over the course of 20 years, like.
Yeah, like I've already met up with some of I guess my friends now, but
Yeah.
coworkers in real life, and yeah, these are people that just I can see creating real long-standing bonds with, and it's fun because we're all we're all nerds at heart, right? And
Yeah.
it's just great to have like-minded and but unique and creative people around you every day. So yeah, it's just
Heck
great.
yeah.
I love it, and I don't feel limited by this remote work. I actually feel more empowered because I have the flexibility to just go do what I need to go do. Like if I need to go grocery shopping or laundry right now, like that's fine. But I can also continue to work into the evening because I'm at home and
Yeah.
I'm all I have to do is walk to my computer, and if something's on my mind, I put it down on paper, and I find myself having these bursts of
Freedom.
creativity, right?
Freedom. Yeah.
Yeah, like with freedom comes creativity, and I
Yes.
think that's extremely important for our team. Um, but also just the way we're structured, it's yeah we have our task boards and our job responsibilities, but we also have a lot of autonomy associated with if you have a good idea, you have the freedom to go like prototype it or write it up in a proposal, and the entire team will look at that proposal and decide if it's a good like if it's worth pursuing or not. But your voice is heard.
Mm.
Whereas if maybe in a standard corporate like or large company feel, it's really hard to feel like your voice is heard all the way up the chain of hierarchy,
Yeah. Don't
right?
think out of the box. It's no good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and even if you do, nobody hears it, right? It's like,
Exactly.
oh, that we don't have time for that, or we're so ingrained in our structure that we can't really change or like rock the boat in any way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It really feels like that's what you guys got going on over there, and I'm so happy to see that, and I know so many of us are. So let me ask you this before we kind of wrap it up. Um, what do you, where do you see, or what do you want to see Star Atlas be, say 5 years, and then maybe like a 10-year mark? What are you really excited about and want to see come true?
I'm excited about the idea that like the idea that a lot of the safe zone areas are going to be these like amazingly plentiful and like um I guess there's going to be so much content and like as bustling is what I'm trying to say, like
Yeah,
bustling and plentiful ecosystems of just people running around talking, like being social, like maybe shopping with different metaverse brands with their physical presence on these in these safe zone like space stations and real estate plots. I'm just really excited for the metaverse to feel like the metaverse in these areas, and then going out into the riskier zones, that's more just like classic territory, grand strategy, conquest and stuff. But it's not necessarily the end all be all of our game. Like
yeah,
if players want to get into like the sweaty combat, like high stress environments, that's on them to choose to do that. But that's not required. And there can be players that are almost like role playing in our universe, and they spend all their time in the safe zones just doing their own thing, and there's plenty to do there, and so I'm excited about that.
I get this scene of a beginning, like in a movie, like at the beginning scene when it's like in just a little town and the main character's walking around. You see people riding their bikes and people going into shops and people saying, "Hey
Yeah.
George," just things like that. Just a happy,
Yeah.
fun beginning of a
Yeah.
movie scene like that. Like just everybody enjoying their day in the safe zone, doing fun stuff, just hanging out with their
Yeah, and I
friends.
like think
People walking
about
by with headphones on. Maybe yeah.
yeah, or like think about we have our Friday town halls, and we in one of the space stations we have this giant amphitheater where
Yeah.
everybody logs in and goes in person in their metaverse avatar goes over there and watches it real time. And then we
Oh
have
yeah.
our team on stage, and we pull players on stage for their questions, and it's just like it's
Yeah.
this digital
You call someone
environment
up,
that's immersive.
you call someone up on
Yeah,
stage and they like run up on stage and they put their hands up, you know what I mean? Like,
and
yeah, like a
and
Rocky,
they're
you know, because
yeah,
they got
and
called
they're
on
an alien
stage.
avatar, like completely
Exactly.
weird looking with like cybernetic enhancements.
Or maybe you have one like one character that looks like Muck from Pokemon back in the day
Yeah.
that takes like 4 minutes to get on stage and is just moving so slow. And it's like, yo, why does this guy have this character? We couldn't tell from the crowd, but now we
And
see it.
Santi's like, okay, we're gonna get back to you and pull
Yeah,
somebody else on
exactly.
stage.
Exactly. Things like
Yeah,
that.
so
Yeah.
I'm definitely excited about like the actual the spacefaring and the combat and the territory and the actual
Yeah.
vision of the Star Atlas proper gameplay. But I'm also excited about the metaverse and social experiences in the long term.
Hmm.
Like that will be a game in and of itself. We would be
Yes.
having this interview in the game, right? Or this conversation more. It's not an interview. Like we would be doing this in the game, and you could screen capture us sitting with our avatars in maybe one of our own like habitats that we own, like our customized apartments and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, we would be sitting in there, and you would be next to a digital campfire or like fireplace that's has blue flames and stuff. Like just
Yeah. Like a
that's
spaghetti
pretty
western, we could
cool.
be eating like virtual beans or something, you know?
Yeah. We could have
Yeah.
virtual beans or some sci-fi, cocktails or whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, we got to get with Santi to drink some wine in the metaverse. That'd be really cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when we say 5, 10 years, like that's that's part of our vision, and I think we'll make that a reality for sure.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Well, look, man, I know we got to do this again because there's so many things to talk about in Star Atlas, but I'm so appreciative of all the work that I don't see you do, but I know you're doing. I'm so appreciative of that, and I think the community is well. We love you. We appreciate the alpha that you give us, and even if it's not alpha, just the details you tell us about this game. That's that we're all so happy to be in, and I think that we are playing it right now. But either way, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much, you and the team. So I really appreciate you coming on
Yeah.
here and talking with me.
Yeah, I love hopping on with any of our community members and just chatting, like at level, right? We're just having a conversation, and so I
Hmm.
appreciate the praise and the support we get, but also want to give a shout out to the team. And there's so much going on behind the scenes, and we even have so many team members um, that we've hired and we've been onboarding that
Yeah.
people don't even know are on our team yet and are doing a lot of great work.
Hmm.
So they're just it's
Yeah.
actually
Secret agents.
our team is deceptively growing and
Yeah.
deceptively big right now. And I know we're working on being more transparent on how like who's on our team and what, but um, yeah, it's just I want to give a shout out to them, and yeah, thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure, and I'm sure we'll do it again.
For sure. Yeah. Shout out to the team, all the secret agents that we don't know about. But yeah, man, thank you guys so much. This is life changing stuff, man. And yeah, I'm just so looking forward to the future and what this year comes up as well as the following year. So thank you so much, Chip. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Yep. Thanks, Moonman. Likewise, I'm super excited, and yeah, really enjoyed our chat. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. You just listened to another episode of the Moon Man Experience. I believe this one is number 23. And if you ask me, I think Chip, shot that fadeaway shot that you see Michael Jordan do, tongue out, boom. So, it was a great one. I enjoyed it. And keep on listening, guys. Thank you so much for supporting me. And that was another episode of the Moon Man Experience.